Despite the countless of documents, evidence that are out there, him speaking for himself in relation to him alignment with Finsac, Mark Golden come on a platform and tell the Jamaican people that he has nothing to do with Finsac. Tell me if this man had tried to insult the Jamaican people, them intelligent. In fact, he put this guy in the line of fire, Dr. Andre Haron. Dr. Haron is literally out of it, confused, doesn't know who to blame. He's trying to blame the Labour Party. He's trying to blame the IMF for the financial meltdown travesty. And it's ridiculous. Ridiculous, Jamaica. Considering that their history, we can read for ourselves, and Dr. Haron come making a fool of himself, trying to defend Mark Golden. Young man, brethren, listen man, these persons need to pay for the wrongs that they have done poor people. Take yourself out of it. Save yourself. You do not put yourself in the midst of fire for a next man's sin. Considering that you an aspire, and this can be damaging, Dr. Haron, to your reputation, trying to insult the people, them intelligent, in relation to what happened to Finsac and the wickedness that caused Finsac. You need to sit aside and let the right persons who are responsible for this wicked act be dealt with accordingly. This is what Dr. Haron said.
1988, Gilbert came. And prior to Gilbert coming, because they tried to hold on to the value of the dollar so much, our reserves, which is what we use to purchase foreign goods, the US reserves that we have went into negative. So Jamaica found itself in a negative position, cannot access money to participate in foreign currency transactions. And it was very bad. The IMF came in and they said that, listen, this government needs shaking up. And the GLP government ignored them. Then, to make things worse, Hurricane Gilbert came in 1988 and ravaged the country. In order to rebuild, to get the equipment that we need, to get the cheap energy that we need to rebuild, we had to leverage the IMF once more. At that time, Michael Manley came into power again. And he came in and inherited a country that was destroyed throughout the 80s by the Jamaica Labour Party. The IMF, having recognized that Jamaica needs this foreign currency desperately, imposed on us what we call the Washington Consensus. So you can go and research the Washington Consensus. It was a 10-point plan aimed at moving Jamaica out of a negative reserve position to putting Jamaica on a positive developmental growth path. Now, contained in the Washington Consensus was a clause to liberalize the foreign exchange market. And when I went to the fund, IMF, in 2017, I spoke to a couple of their lawyers at the time, and they themselves admitted fault to pressure in Jamaica to institute the Washington Consensus without the necessary controls. What ensued? Because they forced us to, instead of taking our time to liberalize the foreign exchange market so the exchange rate can move from, at the time it was 4 to 1, to 5 to 1, to 6 to 1. The currency moved from 6 to 1 in 1990 to 25 to 1 in 1992. By the time Manley settled into power. Which means that if you owe somebody $6 today, and tomorrow you owe them $24, 6 fours, 24. It means that the exchange rate moving from $6 to 1 to $25 to 1 saw every person's debt in foreign currency increase fourfold. So the major banks who borrowed in foreign currency, Eagle Bank, Central National Bank, Citizens Bank, these banks that borrowed heavily in foreign currency, found themselves, instead of having a debt of $6, now has a debt of $25, 4 times more. And that means the entire banking system was going to crash. The entire banking system, because of the debt imposed on us by the IMF, was about to crash. And what had to happen? The People's National Party had to take decisive action. And it was at that time when we decided that we need a commission to help the financial sector adjust to what happened due to the Washington Consensus. And that is when Finsac was established. So Finsac was established as the Financial Sector Adjustment Company to adjust the financial sector to the fact that the IMF imposed the Washington Consensus and push up the debt of our major banks. And in an economy, if your banks fail, all the economy fails. So we had to take decisive action. That decisive action meant that that financial sector adjustment company had to help the banks remodel and liquidate. And that is how Jamaica was able to cope with the atrocities of what the Jamaica Labour Party did to us throughout the 1980s. So when you hear them speak about Finsac and they want the Finsac report, the Finsac report is no indictment on us. It is an indictment on the Jamaica Labour Party who pushed the country in the position that we found ourselves in by the early 1990s.
That's why they won't publish it.
And that is why they won't publish it. Because they know that they only can put a mirage in front of your face. That it is the People's National Party who, yes, instituted Finsac, but why? The why has to come before what exactly was done. And that is why we cannot get the Finsac report. Throughout the 90s, Percival James Pattison took over for Michael Manley because, as you know, circumstances. And Percival James Pattison was one of the best leaders we saw as it relates to infrastructural development, as it relates to breaking down monopolies and oligopolies that existed to stifle the growth of the average Jamaican. Black man time now was the slogan because he believed in the power of you, not the power of a few rich people or the power of a few people, but the power of each and every Jamaican, where you are, how you are. He wanted you to have better, not just for yourselves, but for your children and your children's children. Over 17 schools he built up to now. Andrew Wellness now build one. How dare he compare himself to the great one? How dare he? The highway from Portland to Westmoreland, also the highway from Kingston to St. Anne, envisioned, instituted the blueprint by Percival James Pattison. I can remember one Christmas night
I cannot believe that Andre Hartney is telling the Jamaican people such rubbish. Persons with brain, intellect, this rubbish. Considering that we know the atrocities of the 70s, where the country was growing at 18.2%. And by 1980, when the JLP won the election, it was in the negative. The NIR literally depleted. Our debt to GDP was skyrocketing. Literally, so when he's talking about the 80s being bad for Jamaica in terms of government, Virgin, check out the 70s. In 89 when Manley won, it was a surprise to Manley and also the people of Jamaica, considering that Jamaica was on a trajectory of positive growth. Check it out. Check it out. The economy grew like, what, 3%? And we're coming from a negative stand. Back in the 70s, and even Manley admit that he had made so much mistake. First tenure of governance. So what is the hell Dr. Hartney is talking about? But this is what Dr. Fitz Henley said. Like literally wipe him out, wipe out this stupid assertion that trying to take the blame game from the persons who are truly responsible for the financial meltdown and also the persons who are responsible for this Finsac travesty that caused so much loss, so much despair, so much persons dying. Like literally. Watch this, Jamaica.
Let me give the people of Jamaica the undiluted truth concerning Finsac. While iniquitous PNP policies caused over 40,000 Jamaican businesses to collapse, destroyed savings, and drove many Jamaicans to take their own lives. Deals were entered into which the anti-corruption agency of the day described as irregular and highly improper, and arising from those deals, public funds, millions of US dollars, millions of Jamaican taxpayer money were shelled out and used to line the pockets of a company owned by Peter Bunting and Mark Golding, two men who now aspire to lead Jamaica. Quite frankly, sir, the opposition leader should apologize for his misleading comment that he had nothing to do with the Finsac. It is simply not true. It is an insult to those of us who will never forget the pain caused by the PNP policies of the 1990s. And to make matters worse, the opposition leader has been on platforms across the country, boasting, uttering comments to the effect, "Me don't make my money already. Me don't set it for me and my family." Yes, he did. He sure has. But no amount of revisionist history will hide the fact that he was aided and abetted to that perverse boast by wicked policies pursued by his PNP political cronies, policies which cost many, many Jamaican lives. My humble view, sir, is that those whose pockets were lined by those policies, generated by their political cumbullers, policies which hurt the Jamaican people, those individuals should never be allowed to lead this great country. On the matter of avoiding mistakes of the past and ensuring that current policies do not adversely impact the economy similar to the yesteryear, I heard the opposition leader commenting that he has nothing to do with the Finsac. He made that comment in an interview earlier this week. Senator Morgan alluded to comments made by the opposition leader when he said he came into the PNP via Dr. Omar Davies, where he gave advice regarding the financial sector. Of course, Dr. Davies was the finance minister in the 1990s, during the meltdown of the financial sector. I put it to you, sir, that it is highly improbable that the opposition leader was not consulted on those issues of the day. And therefore, I submit to the Parliament of Jamaica and the people of Jamaica that when the opposition leader says he had nothing to do with the Finsac, no part to play, he should not be believed. In fact, the public record suggests he did not speak the truth. The public record includes the findings of the country's then anti-corruption agency, the Office of the Contractor General, do not support the opposition leader's claim he had nothing to do with the Finsac. As a matter of fact, the public record indicates that there were payments made to a company called Daring, Bunting and Golding, a company owned at the time by Peter Bunting and Mark Golding. Payment made during the Finsac debacle. In one such payment, the PNP administration via the finance ministry had an obligation to pay Daring, Bunting and Golding over $29.5 million. Furthermore, Finsac paid approximately $10 million to Bunting and Golding's company on July 29, 2005. And the debt management department of the Ministry of Finance paid the balance of $20 million. In another instance, the Financial Gleaner of December 5, 1997 tells us that Bunting and Golding's entity abandoned plans for a merger and took full control of Billy Craig Merchant Bank, which is badly affected by the PNP policies of the 1990s. And guess what happened after Senator Seaver Wright? Finsac, which was set up by Golding's political allies, pumped $85 million of taxpayers' monies into the bank, which was taken over by Bunting and Golding's company. The Gleaner says these developments occurred after a hectic year for DB&G, which saw Peter Bunting and attorney Mark Golding playing a prominent part in the company's operations. What I just alluded to are two pieces of evidence which confirm that the opposition leader's claim that he had nothing to do with Finsac is false. Indeed, he misled the people of Jamaica, and his latest comment is confirmation that he cannot be trusted to be honest with the Jamaican people. And as Senator Scott Motley would say, cannot be trusted to lead this great nation.